Limpopo province is rich in natural resources across its 5 districts. Now, traditional economic sectors like the agricultural sector, mining and tourism are the main source of economic growth in that province. However, COVID-19 has had a huge impact on these resources. Let's talk now to the MEC for Economic Development, Environment and Tourism in that province, Rodgers Monama, who is just appointed. In fact, you were appointed last year, if I'm not mistaken. October last year to this position. So let's talk about what you have found thus far. We've just come out of the festive season. Where would you place Limpopo in terms of benefiting from the tourism drive just coming out of the festive break?
Okay. No, thanks very much, Xoli, and your listeners for affording us this opportunity to come and showcase what Limpopo province is endowed with in terms of natural resources and how best we'll be able to turn the economic trajectory in the province. Like you correctly said that we're just from the festive seasons, whereby we have packaged a number of the programs to what we call the visiting friends and families. COVID has taught us that we mustn't depend much on what we call the outbound tourism, but the inbound. We must invest more on what we call the domestic tourism as part of the strategy, because if prior COVID we have lost about 16,000 booked international tourists who were supposed to come in and visit Limpopo, but unfortunately due to other stringent restrictions they were unable and they have to cancel, and you can imagine the huge economic implication it has on the economy of the province. So the more you invest more on the domestic tourism, you derive more benefits, because the people must visit and enjoy and explore and exploit all the rich heritage sites that we have in the province, which I think they are quite spread across all the districts in the province.
Let's talk about the 2 other economic opportunities, specifically the mining sector and the agricultural sector. Moments ago, I had a conversation with the Transvaal Agricultural Union, the general manager, very worried about the state of load shedding in the country. Basically, energy inefficiency or energy insufficiency is throttling that sector. Talk to us about the agricultural outputs from Limpopo. That province is a very, very big agricultural space. How is that doing?
Okay. Like I said, we have what we call Limpopo Development Plan, and post-COVID we package what we call the Socio-Economic Recovery Plan and infrastructure or industrial master plan. Among others, we have identified agriculture and mining and tourism, like we have already alluded to, as competitive advantages that we have as a province. And in terms of the agriculture, you'll reckon that there are a number of areas that I think they are being produced there. Your ZZ2, tomatoes, the Mobani, and Vembe, they are rich in agriculture. So in that case, you find that we are lacking in terms of the agro-processing of all the produce that we have in the province. And we are trying to invest more to ensure that we establish those signs in terms of the industrial parks, together with what we call the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition.
When you talk about, apologies for cutting in, when you talk about investing in the agricultural sector, what does that mean in practice?
Yeah, what we're trying to say is that what are the strategic approaches that we have in the province? We have tomatoes, we have mangoes, and so forth. And you'll find that wherever they are being produced, you'll find that they are produced outside, whereas you have to buy a tomatoes also outside of the province. But whereas they are produced in Limpopo, It doesn't make any economic sense in terms of the economy of the scale. You must find a way of how best you do the agro-processing part of it, so that they are local, the localization part of it, to say that why can't we have these factories that produce them, so that they also minimize the issue of the cost, and they create a lot of more job opportunities in the province. And that's the aspect and the attitude that we have as the provincial administration in terms of the economic recovery that we wanted to initiate.
Yeah. Talking about the issues of taking raw material and sending it somewhere else only for it to be beneficiated there in order to be sold back to the origin at a much bigger price. The mining sector is one of those that has been talking about that for a very long time, at least government officials talking about beneficiation. The Limpopo province, again, this is one sector where you are big in. I'm wondering where that process is as it relates to mining, particularly beneficiation.
Okay. Yeah. Like you correctly said, Limpopo is endowed with the mineral resources and deposits that we have in the province. But amidst the poverty that we have there, and that's why that issue of the beneficiation come into a picture. Like we said that we have established some what you call the catalytic projects, like Makatu Musina Special Economic Zone and Feta Homotubatsi. Special economic zones, precisely because to ensure that there is what you call the mining input supplier park, whereby the beneficiation, the local, must be able to derive benefits out of the minerals deposits that they are being mined there, and to ensure that we create more job opportunities. That's why we are saying that in Feta-Homotuba, the special economic zone, already there are some mining companies that have invested a lot, because we have mining activities in Sikukune and Waterberg. But in all these other regions also of the district, we do have those pockets of some mining activities. But Limpopo is the home of what we call the platinum group metals. Throughout the country, even in Africa. So we need to derive some benefits out of that and ensure that our own communities benefit out of those arrangements that are there. That's the wealth that they have, and we don't want to experience what we call the ghost cities after the mining has been expired, and we find that we only have the ghost towns, and that's exactly that we wanted to avoid. And we have just had LEADER, Limpopo Economic Development Agency, which has a responsibility to ensure that they drive investment. We held or hosted about 2 investment conferences in the province, and we were able to crowd in something like 209 billion rands. And then the last dancer were able to crowd in or mobilize something to the value of 34 billion rands.
Yeah.
And those are some of the things that they are investing more on renewable energy. Like we are saying, that is a problem in terms of the agriculture and metallurgical manufacturing in Musina Makato there. Yeah. And you have your coal in Musina or Vembe, which is abundant, that can assist us in terms of the issue of the steel and so forth.
Yeah. So all of these are economic opportunities that have got to be exploited. And using the word exploitation, that's the word you actually used to also talk about the exploiting the major sports activities that take place, whether you talk about a match between the major sporting or football leagues or football clubs in the country at the moment. What was your vision there when you spoke about that recently, exploiting major sporting activities?
Yeah, that it found expression within what we call the integrated tourism strategy that we have through the agency that we have, what we call the Limpopo Tourism Agency. That we need to use the sport tourism to attract investment, because when there is those big matches that we normally host and negotiate with these big teams to come and play in Limpopo, the benefits that we had, that is that all your guest houses, your BG establishment, that BNG, BNB that you have in the province, they get fully booked, all of them. But even the informal traders, they benefit out of that arrangement, and that's why we now and then mobilize all those teams to come and play in Limpopo so that they derive. But also we support those teams that are hailing from the Limpopo so that we revive the economy and resuscitate it.
With all these plans, Mr. Monama, that you've mentioned, these are all great on paper, but I put it to you that you will not be able to monetize all of these plans if the space at local government is not conducive for business to thrive. And I say this because a number of municipalities in Limpopo have been in the news for all the wrong reasons, whether you talk corruption or whether you talk infighting within the party you belong, the ANC. How do you plan on making these materialize with these problems that I've just stated above?
Okay. No. I think in Limpopo the picture has since changed drastically. So if you look at the Auditor General's recent report, almost all the municipalities have obtained a good audit opinions. And based on that, we are working closely with SALGA, which is the mother body for all the municipalities in the province, to ensure that we implement what we call the TRAP, the Township and Rural Economic Program, so that we are able to strengthen the enterprise development ecosystem in the province. And we are working collaboratively with them to ensure that the environment is conducive. Like if you go to Musina Makato Special Economic Zone, we are working closely with Musina, Makato and the Vembe district. Together with the Skukune district municipality, we are working closely with the leadership of the Fetako Mutubazo municipality and the Skukune district municipality. And they are quite cooperative because they understand the economic spin-offs that that major and massive development is coming to their area. And we don't experience those things of the governance leakages that normally they are being reported. But I think in the province like Capricorn and Polokwane, we are working closely in terms of being the logistic hub. And they are quite handy, more especially the mayor of Polokwane municipality, through the organization of these big teams in terms of the sport, tourism, and the district municipality, Capricorn, Mamudubede. And all these mayors, I think, they are on board in terms of all the initiatives and the traditional leaders, because the Limpopo is predominantly rural. We are working closely with the House of Traditional Leaders in the province to ensure that we package all these programs to take the province to the highest economic trajectory and ensure that we transform the socio-economic landscape of our province. And that's our attitude. But we don't experience problems. And those are just isolated matters of the corruption, and they are all over the country. But I think there is a plan about that to turn the situation around. There is a turnaround strategy in terms of Coxstar in the province to ensure that they support them together with the provincial treasury under the leadership of that squad.
Yeah, well, you may term it isolated, but I doubt that the people of Limpopo who experience the issue of corruption on a daily basis will agree with you when you say these are isolated issues. But I want to bring into the conversation Musina that you mentioned in your last response. Every year, particularly in the December period, or it may be even during major breaks in the year, we see a massive congestion onto the Zimbabwe border post, or the Bait Bridge border post. That's the bridge or the border that separates South Africa from Zimbabwe. Are there any major economic spin-offs that come from that kind of migration between South Africa and Zimbabwe? And how do you work around the illegalities at the same time that happen in that space?
Yeah, I think we're working closely with the two municipalities I've already alluded to, the Musina Makato, in terms of what are the things that we have to do to ensure that as a gateway to Africa, not only Zimbabwe per se, because that's the biggest border that we have. And we're working closely with the Border Management Agency, which has been established by the Department of Home Affairs, to ensure how best can we regularize and ensure that we don't have illegal foreigners coming to our country and so forth, together with the South African Defence Force and the South African police services. Yeah. And then the Department of National Transport has, through PRASA, of course, they've upgraded the route there, if you have been in Musina, which I think is quite rideable now. And then we're negotiating with your Transnet to improve the rail so that we have what you call the speed train as part of fitting in the Musina Makato special economic zone. And those are some of the initiatives that we are doing, but over and about to ensure that we also have all these things that I've mentioned, like coal, that is very prominent and prevalent in that part of the province, to ensure that we have those economic spin-offs, because they are not just passing through, but also they are investing money as and when they have stopped it, so that we must invest more on what are the critical economic issues that we can identify to ensure that they derive benefits out of that as the economy, as they go back to their homes.
Limpopo Economic Development MEC, thank you very much for your time. Rodgers.